What happens when you isolate a man out in the woods for way too fucking long? He ends up making a shitload of music.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
My name is Steve Austin from the band Today is the Day.
Steve, you've been on this podcast once before. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again, Adrian.
The last time you were on was when your previous album, No Good to Anyone, was released back in 2020. We had a long conversation about the process of writing and recording that album and the injuries and the health issues that you were dealing with at the time. My first question would be, how are you feeling these days?
You know, I sort of feel reborn after beating Lyme disease and then having surgeries from that van accident. The main problem being with my legs, where my walking had gotten degraded quite a bit to almost the point of being in a wheelchair. But around like 2019, at the early part of that year, I had gotten past Lyme, I beat it, and then a lot of extensive work after the surgeries about my walking. And so now I can climb a mountain, I can throw a car door, I can pretty much do anything like stack 6 cords of wood or swim across a lake, you know. So it's really on the upside of having stuff like that happen to you. It's like I have brand new legs now. So I feel great. Yeah.
One of the effects of the Lyme disease was you mentioned that you were having problems playing guitar. Have you recovered from that? Are you able to play guitar the way that you used to?
Oh yeah, yeah. Back when I did have Lyme disease and stuff, the main thing that became like a big problem that is a pretty common thing about Lyme is that Lyme creates intense inflammation, and the inflammation is extremely exaggerated. So, like, you know, if your hand or your thumb or your foot, if it causes like a Lyme problem, basically your brain thinks that, you know, that area of your body is broken or something. And so it sends out an immune system army of like white blood cells that go to like that area to try to fend off any kind of bacteria or infection or anything like that. And the only bad thing is that if there is nothing like that going on, meaning this is like a immune system malfunction, it'll cause those fighting cells to start fighting you, like fighting your muscles and your tissues, even though there's nothing wrong with them. And the end result is it causes inflammation. And so yeah, back during 2015 through 2018, this progressively got worse and worse and worse to the point to where every day was like potluck of like not knowing what part of my body was going to get inflamed. And I tell you, I've definitely feel for folks that battle and struggle with Lyme, that it has a 17 or 18% suicide rate. It's one of the top three chronic illnesses that people kill themselves over. And as somebody who had it, I can definitely attest that the severe pain, that not only physical pain, but also the pain that comes along with you basically not being able to do anything mentally, like it will really drive you crazy. At the worst throes of when that was going on, I would describe it as like, you know, your hand, your arm or something starts going insane to the point that you wish you were like the dude from Evil Dead with a chainsaw where you could just cut your arm off or cut your leg off or something like that just to make it stop. But nothing really stops it. You just kind of have to wait it out, you know. And luckily, later on, after being misdiagnosed and all kinds of stuff like that, I found a doctor that was sort of like a hero in the state of Maine where I live, because we have a huge saturation of ticks up here in Lyme disease. And I had heard from other people that live around here locally that this man had he had a great handle on being able to help people recover from it. And it took like a year to a year and 2 months of following his protocol of treatment and whatnot. And the first like 6 months was like the worst thing that you ever lived through, because part of that treatment is that it ramps it up at the beginning on purpose to basically draw Lyme bacteria out of your tissues and muscles so that the medicine can actually attack it. Lyme disease bacteria is a spirochete, which means that the bacteria itself is shaped like a corkscrew. And so traditional Lyme disease treatment involves heavy dosings of antibiotics. But the only problem with that is that when the antibiotics would go down your bloodstream to get to the affected areas, the bacteria could sense that there was a threat from this medicine. And then basically these corkscrew bacteria would kind of dig right down into your muscles to evade being killed by the medicine and whatnot. And that's why you hear of a lot of people say, like, I've been on antibiotics for like, 2 years or something insane, because you're not really supposed to be on antibiotics that long. And yeah, I mean, I consider two people in my life, health wise, that absolutely saved my life, because the guy that cured the Lyme disease and then the other fellow that helped me with my legs, they literally, I mean, I could not be more grateful in my life for them. And the upside to all that after living through it was, once I was back to 100% normal health wise, it definitely changes your perspective and outlook about every single day that you're alive, and not wasting not even 1 second, because all you got is the here and now, and you need to live your life to the fullest, like every single day, and make an impact as good as you can while you're here.
When you start writing songs, do you always start on a guitar?
No, it depends on just what I'm doing, meaning I try to keep an open mind, and I get inspired by playing on different instruments. I play, piano and keyboard, bass guitar, vocals, whatever it is. Like, the only thing I don't really, I can't play worth a crap is drums. I suck at drums beyond belief. It's almost like a comedy show to watch me play drums. But as far as all those other instruments, I've been playing them my whole life. And honestly, from making so many songs throughout the years and everything, I've always sort of try to use this as a creativity tool of like, okay, what if we write a song on a Moog Sub 37, and I jam out, start doing it and whatnot. And then if I want to convert what I wrote on the Moog to guitar, then I might do that, or I might do both. Same thing with like, bass guitar or any other instrument like that. It just depends. Sometimes that'll be the actual instrument that performs that part in a song, or it might just be the instrument that I wrote it on, and then I transcribe it over to a stringed instrument or something.
You have your own studio. Do you demo stuff out for your bandmates?
Yeah.
Program drums or anything like that?
Yeah, I do very simplified things when it comes to as far as the drums, because I know that like I appreciate industrial music quite a bit, but I'm a more of an old school, like I like real drums and a real player that has a real feel. And so I kind of consider that when I'm writing the songs and whatnot, that I'm going to have a drummer play real drums to it. So I don't put like a extreme effort into that. The drums usually for me in writing are more like a timekeeper kind of thing, or a vibe keeper, like kind of giving a particular kind of vibe off with the drums. And then yeah, it is like demoing. Like I jam a lot, and the jams usually work like, finding like a tempo and a beat that intrigues me. and then pick up whichever instrument, a guitar, a bass, or a keyboard, and start jamming to that. And from there, laying down the other parts that would go to it in the whole thing, including vocals. And then I take that and then I give it to my buddies that I rock with. And then I just say, whatever you think, and I've always been like that, meaning like I don't really give direction or any crazy stuff like that because I just don't think you make the best art by trying to tell other people what to play or something. It's like if you pick somebody that you want to jam with, then you should trust their creative sensibilities to be able to come up with something cool. And so it's a wide open forum. It's like I kind of look at it like as an art project, like, okay, I'm going to play this and I'm going to sing this. And then, that's what I want to do. And you're letting me do that. So likewise, everybody together should do that for each other. And so the drummer will listen to the songs and, feel like, okay, I'm going to take this approach to it, or I'm going to do this or that. And same thing with the bassist and whatnot. And then once everybody's got it down and then we've played those songs and rehearsed them, then we do like an actual formal, recording of the album and whatnot with everybody in the studio.
Okay. By the time Colin and Tom hear the new songs, are the song structures still pretty open?
They are, because I'm not sure what way the songs are going to end up being in the very end. So basically, like I said, in a way, I kind of look at this like if you made up a part to a song, like let's say you made up like bass and that's your instrument, and you were like, hey, like this is this song, Steve, and it's the whole piece from like beginning to end. Well, you would want to leave that alone because that was the nexus of like, creating it and whatnot. And so now the other two fellas that you're jamming with, say like me or the other guy, would be like, okay, well, cool, that's what you're doing. And then I'll do this over here and everything. And I mean, if you pick the right people, it's like there's usually not much discussion that really has to go down, because to be honest with you, I've been very lucky with some super talented and gifted musicians. Colin Frecknell is a fabulous, just intelligent drummer with an amazing jazz feel. I absolutely love rocking with him. Like he's got like such a great feel, and he understands odd time signatures really, really well, and complex arrangements and whatnot. He went to Berklee Music School in Boston.
Oh, wow.
So he's got that side of thing with him. He also has played in, various like I would call it like tech metal type projects and whatnot. So he's pretty extreme. And then Tom Jack has been like a longtime friend of mine for years. I mean, I would imagine going back over 20 years. And his band that was called Diesel Theory, they were on Supernova Records back in 2000, like between 2006 and 2008. And that's kind of how me and him first connected a whole lot. Was I knew him and Andy that played in that band. And so then later years on, me and him were talking. I needed a bass player at the time. And Tom was like, oh yeah, man, dude, I'd love to rock. And we got together and jammed. And, it's really cool. It's just, I guess I have a lot of good luck, but I also, maybe it's the musical circles that I play in. I seem to know a lot of people who play pretty complicated music, I guess.
So we're having this conversation a week after you released a new album called Never Give In through your own label, Supernova Records.
Yep.
What can you tell me about the new album?
Well, it's an interesting ride. I'd have to preface it with what happened right before it. And so I was determined when I went to write these songs of like, you think of all kinds of things when you're going through something crazy like that. And for one of them for me is that I've never really been genre minded about anything. I love all kinds of different musics and stuff like that. Now, the emphasis of a lot of my work has been involved in heavy metal or noise or like stuff like that, aggressive music. But at the same time, there's a million different ways of emoting heaviness and whatnot. And so I went to go do these songs and I was like, you know, if the world's coming to an end and everything, and I don't give a fuck about any never did about making money or anything like that at all. I put myself to the test of like, you know what? I got an idea. How about you don't give a fuck and you write exactly whatever it is that you want to write, and it don't matter what instrument it's on or whatever it is or what way it comes off or whatever. We're just shooting for true human emotion expression, and don't care about if it doesn't fit in this or fit in that or whatever. And so like I would write, one of them, and then that one's like that, and then I go to do the other one, and now this one's like that, way different than that. And all of these were like pieces of a puzzle that don't match, but they do. And it's like, time went on, and the funniness about the way this all wound out is that I ended up writing about an hour and 40 minutes of music, which I did not realize when I was doing all that I had written quite that much stuff. It was like close to 20 songs or something like that. And so when I went to go check this stuff out, once it all had been demoed and everything, before the guys played to it, this is just with me with like a simple drum beat or whatever as the drums, and then me playing bass, guitar, vocals, all the stuff. I I listened to the album, and I think it was just because I was pissed off about so much stuff, probably combined with I think my own music went over my own head, because like there was a moment in 2000 early two or mid 2023 where when I listened to all that stuff, I was like, this is shit. This is pure shit. Like this should be fucking deleted. Like Lars Ulrich's dad from the Metallica documentary, when he plays him the album and he's like, "What do you think?" And he goes, "I think you should delete it." And it's like that's the way I felt. I felt like, besides everything else going on in this fucking world, on top of it all, like this is shit. I don't like it. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here with this. I don't get the point of it. I don't even know. You know what? Fuck all this shit. I'll just like write another album. And I didn't like make that decision, but that's kind of the way I felt for some crazy reason. And a little bit of time went by. COVID sort of ended, sort of, or started to end. I guess it was ended. And I went to go hang out with my wife, Hannah, and we were, on leisure time, like of hanging out with each other. So we were wanting to jam some music and stuff. And I looked on my laptop, and right there in front of me, it said, today is the day, new album. And I just said, "You want to listen to Today is the Day album?" And she's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay. And so I put it on with this predisposed vibe before I put it on, thinking like, well, just get ready for, you know, get ready for a bucket of shit, like or whatever, but well, yeah, let's check it out. And so I played it, and then the next thing you know, about 20 to 30 minutes went by, and then I realized that me and her had not said one word while that was going on because it was blowing our minds. And like I remember sitting there, and for whatever reason, like it completely hit me like a ton of bricks of how fucking awesome Never Give In is. And that's coming from me, as you can tell by me talking about wanting to delete my own shit because I have a high level of standard, and I just don't, I won't accept anything that I don't think is my very best. And I have a low self-esteem. I don't think that anything I ever do is any good. So it constantly makes me try harder. I got through listening to all those songs, and when I did, I turned it off. Me and her were sitting there, and then I said to her, I'm like, I feel so stupid right now because I listened to this a few months back, and I just literally was so bummed. And then now I'm sitting here and I played it, and now I might be more proud of it than any other Today Is the Day record in some ways. And it's because, the whole point of Today Is the Day is to try to make something brand new that you've never heard before and not write the same song twice, and to create a new style of music or a new type of music. And that was exactly after I took it in the next time, I could see that, and it hit me of like, bro, like this shit is some like late 60s, early 70s philosophy prog, a type of record that's not made anymore from the days of like Lark's Tongue and Aspics by King Crimson, or like Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, or any of these other like really tripped out like psychedelic albums and whatnot. And then I realized finally, oh shit, I think I kind of blew my own mind at first when I listened to it, because but I also think it was because of also just like anything, it's like if you're having a bad time in life or something, a lot of times nothing makes you happy. It's like, somebody could give you like a steak to eat that's like the greatest steak in the world, and you might like eat like a couple bites and just be like, what is this crap? Like this is terrible, and it's like it's just because of your attitude. And my attitude, I will admit, was fucking terrible. And that's probably why when I went and made such a freaky album, that the first time that I really listened to it all, I was like not I was just like, wow, like I could do better. But then things lighten up a little bit, COVID ends, I'm in a different situation, a different time, and then I was able to listen to it and take it in differently than before, and so that's kind of how all that got brought to fruition.
So, of the original sessions that you did, you mentioned it was about an hour and 40. How much of that survived to the version that we hear now, the version that was released last week?
Well, I decided at first I was going to do it in a double album because, if you're going to go off the prog mountaintop and really stretch out, then why not, go ahead and really stretch out and let the whole thing live as one piece. But then it's I've done a double album before called Sadness Will Prevail, and that was a pretty wild undertaking making that one, and that didn't really have anything to do with it, but it was more like I started to think about it, and I was like, there's a couple reasons here why I think as a concept that this should be more like a pairing of books, like the book. There's book number one, and then book number two. That's a continuation of what the first book was, and I did that. Also, to be honest with you, with the fans of Today's the Day in mind as well, because as you know, during COVID, everything was like so insane and hardship financially for everybody. It was like super, super bad. Nobody being able to go to work, nobody being able to do anything and everything. And I thought, man, I want the people to be able to get to have this music, the ones that want it. And if we do this as a double album, this is going to cost a lot like of money for to manufacture and make with the two full-length vinyls, and with things being so heavily crushing as they are, plus with the fact that I had that idea of like what if you had like it more like chapters where this is like chapter one and then had the chapter two. I thought, well, this is cool because people just don't have a lot of resources right now. And if anything, this will give them more than one Today is the Day album without having to wait like a really long time, because we're going to put the other one out in the spring of next year, like literally probably within the next 6 months and whatnot. So at that point, I abandoned the idea of doing it as a double album. I just thought it would be more cool and for the fans a more economical type of thing to be able to get the music and enjoy it, as opposed to like, hey, the world's falling apart, I'm completely broke, oh, and here's Steve coming down the pike with this expensive double album or whatever. It just didn't seem cool to do to the fans. And so I went through and I mapped out the order of the way that the pair of the albums would be. And so that Never Give In is like exactly one half of it. And then the other half, so there's 9 songs on Never Give In. I think that means that there's like about 10 or 11 that are going to appear on the other one.
Would you describe Never Give In as a concept album?
I guess so. I mean, there is a purpose and a point in it, because it's like I wanted to try to make something, because this is a pretty historic time as far as like a very unnatural occurrence that happened in the world, and I wanted to kind of document my feelings about it, picking up from right when this started and whatnot. And it's funny because almost like a Quentin Tarantino or David Lynch film or something like that, song number 3, Intentional Psychological Warfare, that was supposed to be song number 1 in a way because of the words of that song. But then I wanted to do some sort of like in a movie when you start in whatever present time and then the next scene is actually going back in time, and then maybe it jumps ahead so it's not in chronological order. And so like it is a running theme. There's other songs which I'll expose on your show here that are not on that, like Bread and Water is another one from those the other piece that's not out, because for me This whole experience during that time was very damaging and crazy, and I had a very different perspective of it than I think a lot of other people would have had. And the reason for that is because I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in the middle of the woods, way up in northern part of the United States, like almost near Canada. Like I'm like 2 hours from Canada. And so it's a very low population deal up here. We don't see like a lot of people a lot of times. I mean, there's people that live within, stretch of my house or whatever, but in general, there's just not that many people up here. And so, you know, being off isolated, even more isolated than, say, people that are in the city or congested areas and stuff like that, you can really kind of get a bird's eye view of like what's going on because you're not like right down in it, like thick in it. You can kind of take a step back away. And so I wanted to document that all in music about different feelings and all that. And so Never Give In is sort of like a pseudo diary, fantasy diary that was written during that time.
You had a couple of guest musicians perform on the album, including a mutual friend of ours. Do you want to say who shows up?
Yeah, I really would because in working on this, there's different pieces that struck me as perfect for some of my friends that they could contribute some really cool stuff. And so there's a song on the album called Secret Police, and one of my very best friends, I truly consider him to be like my brother from the band Grid Failure, Dave Brenner. He does some fascinating, insane, like really amazing work with sound and music and album writing and whatnot with Grid Failure. And his stuff just blows my mind. And so I got the idea of, I would really love it if Dave could take Secret Police, and just like I was describing earlier, I love what he does. So there's no direction or anything. I was just like, Dave, here's the song, and whatever you think, whatever you want to play, whatever you want to do, just do it, and I'll bet you it'll blow my mind. And alongside that, another mutual friend of me and Dave's is Mac Golahan. And Mac is this like just legendary, ultra talented horn player, musician. Mac has played with like Blondie and David Bowie, Duran, like he played on like Let's Dance by David Bowie. I mean, it's like some really important records. But most importantly, Mac is a jazz freak, which is one of my things and whatnot, because I'm hugely inspired by jazz, like rhythms and music and whatnot, and love Miles Davis. Miles Davis, Bitches Brew is my favorite album of all time. And so I was like, Mac, if you would be down with jamming on this, just anything you want to do. I just love what you do, and I think that your touch could really like take this next level. And so Dave and Mac got together and worked on their parts and whatnot. And I was just fucking mind blown when I got it. It's like David's vocals are so scary and so crazy and otherworldly going on with the other vocal. It's almost like there's two different layers of vocals. They're the ones that you're following the words, and then there's another vocals that are creating like this feeling and soundscape behind it of extreme torture and sorrow. And then Mac over here blows my mind by doing sort of almost like a Latin horn section to like the chorus sections of that song. And it was just so inventive and so cool for him to think up like doing that like that, because when you kind of put it all into one ball, it makes for like this, for what I live for, which is to create something brand new that you've never heard before, because you don't really usually hear heavy metal slash punk rock guitars or hardcore guitars jamming with sort of like almost like a techno-ish kind of like beat bass thing, and then horrific noise vocals, and then a Latin horn section. So they really help as far as helping me create something I could be really proud of. I feel like that they're the best part of that song, what they did. And then another good friend of mine, Aaron Polk, that plays in a band called Worms. That's a really amazing band. We put out their album a couple years ago. Aaron is awesome. I had went down to New Orleans to go jam and work with those guys and did a studio install for my buddy from Worms. And while I was there, wiring up the studio and getting all this gear working for him and all this, once I got all the work done, I hadn't played music in a while. And so I asked the guys, I was like, hey, would y'all want to jam, and have some fun? And, they were like, yeah, dude, let's do it, So we jammed and everything. And while I was there, I wrote I wrote that song, Psychic Wound, while I was there. And I got back home and, kind of like the way the Today's the Day record coming together, where different things are in fragments. I, I kind of revisited that song that I had made up and I was like, I really dig like like the feel of the drum beat. Now there was different things about it that I wanted to change and stuff. And so I collaborated with Aaron on that one where I took his organic drum track and then I went in and I basically like wrote some other different variations within it to change it for like the way the final song would be and whatnot. So it's mostly Aaron, but it's a little bit of me on the tech end of sides of putting it together. And in the end, like it makes for like this looming, just massive meat and potatoes, demented noise rock type beat that's really cool. And so I can't thank him enough for like being such a gifted musician and like coming up with like the different drum stuff there that he did.
So at the end of November, you'll be going on tour with Primitive Man. Do you want to say anything about that tour?
Yeah, I tell you, I'm a real picky person about music and whatnot. A lot of the music that I listen to, I'll admit, is a lot of like classic music that's older, like a lot of stuff from like the 1960s and the 1970s, but really any time period. But in general, I kind of vibe and connect most closely with like the early 70s and whatnot, late 60s type of music or whatever, I guess, that was going on. And so like a lot of times a lot of modern music doesn't really speak to me that easily. And so especially in heavy music, there's a lot of things that can be pretty generic and the point of it is to be heavy, though when role playing goes down and formulas are going down, a lot of it all sounds like the same shit to me, and so it's hard to get me to say something's heavy, like heavy, heavy, if I don't think it's heavy, heavy. But I'm here to say Primitive Man are heavy as fuck. Like it's like I will never forget the first time that I heard them play. It literally felt like about 1,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds of corrosive metal and steel girders out of a building, just all crushing down on your chest in a weight and denseness and thickness that is in a lot of ways like the essence of heavy metal. Like it really like hits you like so hard. And then you top that off with like the singer and guitarist in the band, Ethan McCarthy. I tell you, to play such brutal music and whatnot, you could not ask for a sweeter, kinder, cooler friend. I mean, I just was lucky enough to go on tour with Boonwell a couple months ago and Spiritual Poison, which is Ethan McCarthy's solo project. He was on tour with us. And so it was a reunion of sorts of getting to hang out together and play shows every day. And it was just awesome, man. It was just like for everybody in Today is the Day kind of just felt like Ethan was now part of Today is the Day until this tour is over with because we just did everything with him, hung out with him all the time. And then this tour came up about, with Primitive Man, me and him were talking on the phone and he asked me if I'd be down with doing some of the shows with them. And it took a less than a microsecond for me, of course, to say, oh, hell yeah, man. Absolutely an integrity driven band, no bullshit, just the real deal, the real underground. And so I'm proud and happy to be sharing the stage with them throughout this tour. We're going to be touring headlining shows from November 12th through November 30th, making our trek from Maine out to Los Angeles to start the tour with Primitive Man. And then the Primitive Man tour goes from Los Angeles across the southern part of the United States from LA, San Diego, then back across through Arizona, Texas, finally winding out down in Orlando, Florida. And then the day after the Primitive Man tour concludes, we are playing a metal festival in Tampa the very next day on the 13th. And then we'll be touring from Tampa back up to Maine in a northern shot from there. So the tour is pretty long. I think it's somewhere between, I believe it's between somewhere between 35 and 38 shows or something like that. And it's great because of hitting so many cities, ones that we didn't go to on the tour that I just did a couple months ago. Hopefully it'll give everybody an opportunity to come out and say hi and hang out with us and see us play and take and enjoy music together, you know.
A car crashed and it changed my whole life. When I found out I had nothing, I found out I had something. The train kept rolling along. You live your life in chains. You gave your love away. You live your stealing brain waves from your brain. I can't feel it any longer. I can't feel it when it rains. Laser guided ammunition, stealing brain waves from your brain. I can't feel it any longer. I can't feel it when it rains.
So, Never Give In is out now through Supernova Records. Steve, please tell everyone how they can order the new album.
Okay.
What's the best way to get it?
Yeah, the most direct and easy way to do it is to head over to the bigcartel.com site. It's our record company, Supernova Records. So the address on that's supernovarecords.bigcartel.com. All of the Today is the Day merch is on there with classic shirts going back to, the beginning of Today is the Day, as well as, new Never Give In t-shirts and vinyl and CDs and whatnot. And if you're not a traveler through the Big Cartel Space Zone, it is also available on Bandcamp as well. So if you navigate over to our Bandcamp site, they're there. So either way, and honestly, if you ain't got the money right now, that's okay. I don't care. I just want you to enjoy the album. And I want you to enjoy it for free. So if you want to, while you're at Bandcamp, just you're easily able to stream it there all day long, as well as Spotify and Apple Music and everything like that as well.
So as you mentioned, this album is split into two parts, and the second part will be coming out early next year. Do you want to say anything about the second part?
Yeah, there's a couple things I tell everybody about that's coming up that nobody knows. So this is an exclusive on Dreams of Consciousness right now. I'll tell you what, y'all. What happens when you isolate a man out in the woods for way too fucking long? He ends up making a shitload of music. And so where there was a long drought there for a little while, this is everything going on in the next 6 months. So Never Give In came out on October 3rd. There is a certain something, I'm going to leave this one sort of mysterious, but like on November 7th, there's something that's going to come out then that's going to be going on. And then we go on the tour from November 12th to December 21st. Then after the holidays in February, the Mark Cards and Loaded Dice album that I've been working on, which is I guess you would call it traditional country bluegrass psychedelic album. I don't really know what to call it. It's just music that I love and enjoy. During COVID, in my isolation, another thing I did was, though country music has improved greatly these days by new artists like Billy Strings and Sierra Farrell, Molly Tuttle, it's like when I first started doing this in 2020, at that time, and also being fucked off, I kind of thought about country music and I was like, God, this is like the worst shit ever these days of country music. And I grew up in Tennessee listening to Hank Williams Sr., Waylon Jennings, David Allan Coe, Willie Nelson, George Jones, most importantly, Townes Van Zandt, Blaze Foley. And I just, out of inspiration for what I consider like real like country music or traditional country music, as well as other people that weren't even country, like Bob Dylan's early albums and some of the early Neil Young like music around 1970. I just wanted to kind of take that idea and run with it and see what I could make. And I ended up writing one song and didn't really have any grand plans about it or anything. I was just doing it again to try to understand myself, to try to figure something out. And then after I got that song written and I played it for my wife, Hannah, it hit me and her so hard, bringing us to tears, that right at that moment, I realized that there was something bigger to it than just me experimenting around and jamming around. And so then I proceeded to write, I believe, like around 12 or 13 more songs. And I've been working on it over the last like 4 years and whatnot. And I got some really cool people to play on it, like the pedal steel player on this is Dana Flood. Dana Flood's in like the Hall of Fame for like pedal steel. He was a protege of Don Helms, that was the pedal steel player for Hank Williams Sr. And Dana toured with like Johnny Rodriguez. He's played steel for on tour with Willie Nelson, George Jones, and by fate would have it, Dana happens to live in Bangor, Maine, which is about 30 minutes from here. So we met each other during that time, and Dana became a part of the project. And so he plays pedal steel on the album. And by the way, is like the Randy Rhodes of country pedal steel guitar playing. The guy is maybe one of the most talented musicians I've ever played with in my life. And then on the fiddle, a good friend of mine, Ryu Bennett, that's another just amazingly gifted concert musician. She plays in symphonies and orchestras and various things like that, but also is a huge bluegrass and country and folk fan. She also came on board, and so she played all of the fiddle on it. And in the end, what started out in my mind, what that I was making this like almost like time machine type of album that's like taking you back to those days of the Hank Williams Sr. and then the outlaw period of country music, like the during the 70s, kind of like the drugged out period of it. It ended up making for this album that is got this like almost like the Beatles' White Album or like the Revolver or something like that, like where it's sort of on a psychedelic experimental vibe of some kind or whatever. I don't know. I don't know why, because I didn't set out to do that. But like after I got through doing it, I kind of realized that the album's pretty freaky, and I'm super proud of it. It's going to be coming out in February, and then after February, we're going to be doing we're doing a reissue of the original Temple of the Morning Star, the original master that's not remastered, that's not anything other than that. When I got this idea for that, I thought, so many people reissue these albums these days, as well as myself, and remaster them and kind of bring them up to current modern technological possibility that it can be. And then I thought about like Temple of the Morning Star, and I was like, what if we could put out like the exact real, like very same thing that in 1997 when that came out, that someone would hear back then. And so I searched through tons and tons of boxes in storage. I finally found the original master on CD during Relapse that was the stuff that made all of those records and whatnot. And so we're going to have a special a special edition of Temple of Morning Star that is exactly the same album as back in 97 that's been unavailable in that form. So that if you're a younger person and, you maybe you just found out about Today's the Day and you go online or you look and you see all these remastered or this and all that, but you're just kind of vibing like, shit, man, I wish I was alive in 97. I mean, what was it like when it came out back then? Well, this is the way that you could check that out. And then I went down to Nashville about a month ago and I recorded an album for Anticorp Music called it's for a series of records that are called the Magnolia Sessions. And the Magnolia Sessions are a live performance with studio equipment recordings that are made underneath a magnolia tree outside of the recording studio. So they run all the mic lines, they run everything outside on super long snakes and cabling so that underneath this magnolia tree you perform and it's being recorded. It also has some other cool stuff like Dan that does it uses a binaural head that uses binaural recording techniques. If you aren't familiar with that, if you do a Google on it a little bit, it's basically where binaural recording involves having like a human head mannequin that has microphones mounted in its ears so that it can pick up a true perception, a true stereo perception of what, say, like a human hears audio like. It gives kind of like a 3D kind of effect. And so that's an element of that recording. And that's called the Steve Austin Magnolia Session. That will come out a couple months after Mark Cards and Loaded Dice and the Temple reissue. So we have a lot of records that we've been working on finally coming to fruition. And I know a lot of people would be like, why don't you spread that stuff out? But I'm like, you know what, man? I think we had plenty of time to do nothing. Now is the time to do something. And I miss my fans and I enjoy being there and giving to them. And so if you follow what I do or you follow Today's the Day, there's a lot of music coming your way over the next like 6 months.
And so if people want to keep up with what you yourself are doing musically or what Today's the Day is doing or the reissues that Supernova is putting out, what's the best way to follow you online?
Well, I would say the best way to follow me is either through the Today's the Day or Steve Austin or Austin Enterprise, which is my studio's Instagram or Facebook's, either one of them. We're pretty attentive on all of those different avenues of posting everything that's going on with us all the time. And you can check in there. Usually any updates of anything going on, whether it be releases or what we're doing, or if we're on tour or whatever, or even just hanging out and working on stuff or whatever. That's probably your best way to see that stuff all the time.
Steve, it was good catching up with you. And once again, you've been extremely generous with your time. But is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want listeners to know?
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Adrian. It is an honor to come back and do another show with you on Dreams of Consciousness. You have a really, really cool podcast and whatnot. I feel like that you approach the different ones that you do in a very sincere and cool way. And so for me, it feels right at home to hang out with you here. And then I would also like to just say to everybody out there, we were living in a terrible, dark time right now, and the world is at its most craziest, confusing, out of control state right now. But I tell you, just hang in there. We're gonna get through all this stuff going on. I mean, love the people around you and make the most of every single minute with your friends and with your family. And just realize that, like, we're gonna make it through all this stuff right now. I know a lot of people are suffering and hurting and whatnot. and I feel for everyone. And I myself, walk through each day with the way I get through all this stuff is just by relying on those things that I just spoke of. I love my family and I love my friends and I love my fans and my animals, my dogs and chickens and all that. It's like those are real things, and those are things that nobody can take away from you. So no matter how dark it gets, it's like just know that you are loved. And even if nobody in the world tells you you're loved by me. I love you. And I think we're all going to make it through this. It's just going to take some time. So hang in there, everybody. We're going to rock this thing out.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you, Adrian.